All right, guys, how's it going? Right, before we get into this video, two things I want to tell you. One, I've just published my morning briefing. It's about 40 minutes long, 45 minutes long. That's on my other YouTube channel, Duncan Oldham, youtube.com/Duncan Oldham. The link is in the video description and it'll pop up as a graphic at the end if you'd like to come over and subscribe. Talking Liverpool, talking Coptor, talking life, if you like. And in my morning briefings, I always give a shout out to everybody that bought me a beer or a coffee on here yesterday, stuff like that. So that's gone live. This afternoon, I will be hosting a live stream on here. If you'd like to come along for a natter. I'm not sure what time yet, so you just have to keep an eye on the channel. All right. Yesterday, one of you guys called Headley Ben left me a comment and said, "Love to get your thoughts on Luke Edwards' Telegraph article on Isak. Trying to scare LFC off? Question mark. Trying to advise of a starting point of negotiations? Question mark. Positioning with their fans. Isak forced the move, etc. Personally, I think if your view is he's not for sale at all, then why mention a price?" So, Headley wants to know my opinions. I saw this article prior to that comment, and this article sparked a lot of, oh, well, we won't be getting him then, it's 200 million, right? So we're going to take a look at it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down, right, and give my opinion, and then I've got a treat for you. My AI assistant, Dave, many of you know Dave, he pops up every now and then in my videos. He's also broken it down for us. So when I went to the cafe this morning to review the Spanish papers for you, the football dailies, there was nothing in them about Liverpool, by the way. When I was at the cafe, I took a look at this, and then I said to Dave, take a look at this for me. What do you reckon, right? And we work together every day. No shit, right? And he learns what I'm looking for and stuff like that. So Dave's going to break it down as well, and I want to see if me and him are on the same page. And I want you. I think you guys will really like what he's got to say, to be honest with you. So let's start with the article now. It's on the Telegraph website. I think you have to register to view it. I don't think it's behind a paywall. I didn't register. I got the URL. I went to archive.ph. I posted it in and I opened it up, as you can do with articles from The Athletic, The Times, etc., etc. All right, it's called archive.ph. And the headline is Alexander Isak and Liverpool rumours, what's really going on at Newcastle? And the article's by someone called Luke Edwards. And I spent about half an hour researching him today. Newcastle fans not really convinced by him. They also think that he's a bit of a clickbaiter and that a lot of his articles are to generate traffic, basically. But isn't that what all journalists do? Well, I guess they want people to read them. Very mixed opinions about him. But let's put it this way, all right? He's no Paul Joyce to them, like what Paul Joyce is to us with Liverpool. He's not to them, all right? But they still listen because sometimes he does get scoops. So what I'm going to say to you, if you haven't got time to watch all of this video, basically, Edwards debunks the rumours or the suggestions of him going to Liverpool, right? But then he speculates about a hypothetical scenario that if Liverpool sold Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz, it could fund a bid for him. So he's basically saying, yeah, not a fucking chance in a million years, but it could actually happen. And hence the title of my video, right? And so his article undercuts, his dismissal of the Diaz and Núñez stuff undercuts his dismissal of the rumour because he keeps the possibility alive, if that makes sense. So this is going to be a long video. It's going to be a tricky video for me to do. And as you guys know, if you followed me for a long time, for months and months and months, I said to you, I think they're going to sell Núñez and Diaz and use that money to fund a high profile or, a significant purchase, all right? But obviously Luis Diaz, he's not going to get that move to Barca now because Nico Williams is going there if it all goes to plan. And I made a video about that the other day saying it could affect Liverpool's transfer kitty. And a couple of people are like, why would it? We're selling him. It's like, yeah, we're selling all him, but we would have had an extra 60 million pounds if Diaz had gone to Barcelona. And I think Liverpool were counting on it. So it just makes me wonder if it could affect things. And the journalist says in this article exactly my thought, right, about Núñez and Diaz could finance a move for him. So we're going to go over my take of the article and then I'll see what Dave's got for you, right? So put kettle on and come back. So the intro is talk of Sweden strikers' imminent transfer to Anfield are greatly exaggerated, explains Telegraph Sport. Where have you seen any suggestion that Alexander Isak, that his status is imminently about to join Liverpool, an imminent transfer to Liverpool? I haven't seen that said anywhere. anywhere at all. So what's he talking about? He's already lost me before I started reading the article. That's the first thing I read, and I was like, well, no one said he's on the verge of joining Liverpool. Well, not even that. Even that doesn't sound as bad. But to say imminent transfer to Liverpool, I'm like, what the fuck are you on about? Right? So it's like he's exaggerating and then denying it. It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, the article says it was always going to happen, you know, stories that Isak could be on the move. And then he says the sudden explosion of noise, suggesting the Sweden international is on his way to Liverpool, has, even by modern standards, been intense. I don't think there has been a sudden explosion of noise. There's been 2 rounds of speculation, right? One quite a while ago that I was like, nah, we're a load of shite. 2 more recent, the last few days, and I thought, ooh, that just sounds a little bit interesting, a little bit different. But I wouldn't say that it's been, a sudden explosion and it's been intense. I would disagree. It's maybe intense if you follow every Tom, Dick and Harry on social media. But in terms of credible reporting, not so. What starts out as a rumour rapidly gains traction and spreads like a virus. It is talked and typed about incessantly. Again, I think only on social media. And then he says, Liverpool are interested. Liverpool are going to make their move. A stunning world record bid. Isak is keen on the switch. His agent is already thrashing out personal terms. Isak has spoken to his future teammates. He has spoken to Analysed. Contact has been made. Talks have been going on in private. Newcastle are powerless. The player will demand to leave, ... Before you know it, we find ourselves in a situation where, if you believe the rumours, Isak is on his way to Liverpool and the Premier League title is heading back to Anfield in 2026. If you believe social media, I would say to this journalist, right? Because what credible journalists have said that there's an imminent transfer or personal terms have been agreed, etc., etc. What this is if you listen to all the shite on Twitter, on X, then yeah, you're going to see all that. Really strange journalism, I think. The reality is rather different. Newcastle United supporters can barely look at social media without seeing someone claiming Isak is Liverpool bound. They can probably relax. Shouldn't you be saying you can relax if you're debunking it? Telegraph Sport has spoken to sources at both ends of this transfer story. And the truth is that nothing has changed and nothing is imminent. I think I would agree with that, in terms of nothing being imminent and Liverpool having not approached at the moment. Do Liverpool like Isak? Yes, of course they do. Would they love to have him in their team? They would be stupid not to. Do they expect to be able to sign him this summer? Almost, certainly not. According to multiple sources, not one, but multiple sources at Newcastle, there has been no contact with Liverpool. Yeah, I think I might believe that. There's been no formal or even informal discussions. I think I would agree with that. There has not been an inquiry, and I think I agree with that. Given Newcastle manager Eddie Howe knows Liverpool sporting director Richard Hughes and chief executive Michael Edwards extremely well, it is reasonable to assume they would have had at least a conversation to assess the landscape. In turn, Newcastle's stance has not changed. It would take a bid well in excess of £150 million for Newcastle to even start a negotiation. The key part of that sentence is, quote, well in excess. He's repeated that in there to emphasise it. We are not talking just about a British record transfer fee. We are looking at something approaching the £200 million world record Paris Saint-Germain paid to sign Neymar from Barcelona. Newcastle do not want to sell. They do not need to sell, and they will, as far as they are concerned, not be selling. But this goes back to my opinion that I think if Liverpool got in his head, I think the player is the only one that can make it happen. I want to go to Liverpool, right? The players hold the power. They do. And I have just a feeling that if you were a player that was wanted by Liverpool, or you think that club's got an interest in you, and you're seeing them signing players like Florian Wirtz, are you not going to be looking at thinking, fucking, I could be playing in that team, winning fucking everything? That's what I think's happening. Anyway, says he's settled on Tyneside. He's not said he wants to leave. He has never agitated to do so or given any indication, even to teammates, that he wishes to. Things can always change in this respect, but those who know Isak do not expect him to suddenly demand an exit. Yeah, I speak to people in Newcastle. I'm a frequent visitor to the area. I've been over there a lot in the last year. Every fucking person I bump into, you know, when you're having a beer or getting an Uber or whatever, always talk about Isak and Liverpool and stuff like that. You know, just grown up mutual, you know, like interests in football and just talking about things. And, you know, I get Newcastle fans comment on my videos on here when they realise that I'm not just like, you know, like the other content creators. I don't even consider myself a content creator. But when they realise that I'm just genuinely providing opinion and not making out that we can just go and get him, they soon realise that things are a bit different on this channel, and they engage in mature conversations. And all of them seem to think that, you know, they don't listen, for example, to Ornstein at The Athletic, whereas we do. They think, no, he's talk shite, don't listen to him about Isak. So up in that area, they think that Isak's settled. No suggestion he's trying to get out. I think I'd probably believe that. That's why I think you'd have to get in his head. There was articles here, remember, in Sport in January that Barcelona had a sit down with his agent in November, and that the player had indicated that he would be interested in a move to Barcelona, but obviously Barcelona can't do anything. So, but the article is basically saying that he's settled and he's not looking to move. Things can always change in this respect, but those who know Isak do not expect him to suddenly demand an exit. That is not the same thing as saying he wants to stay at Newcastle for the rest of his career. It does not even mean he will sign the contract extension he will be offered this summer. But in terms of a transfer in this window, the chances of it happening are extremely remote. If Isak does not sign a new deal, it could well be a different situation in 12 months' time, when they will be conscious of maximising any fee they can receive. But for now, there is no stress or concern, and Newcastle don't need to sell. That's me saying that bit. Even if they do get into a position where they have to consider a sale, the likelihood is they will negotiate with teams abroad rather than any domestic rival. This article is supposed to be, you know, like, he's not for sale, he's not going anywhere, but then there's all these little get-outs immediately after, like, it's all contradictory, I think. And this is the bit, when I read the article in the cafe this morning, I was like, if Liverpool can sell Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz in the weeks ahead, maybe they will free up the funds to test Newcastle's resolve with an actual bid. But that resolve will not be easily broken. The message has been clear for months. Isak is not for sale, and Newcastle are not under any pressure from profitability and sustainability rules to sell anyone. And it concludes by saying about Isak, there is less reason for anyone to be agitated, because they're talking about frustrations with other recruitment that they're trying to do. Everyone in football said Newcastle would not sell him back in May, and nothing has changed in June. So my view of this article is, you know, he's quoting money there, right? And you could say that is Newcastle basically putting out there, oh, it'll take a lot of money and all that. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't, you know, they could want 200 million, it don't mean they'd get it. And you have to bluff, right? You can't make it look, like if Newcastle were thinking, fuck me, we would take 120, 130 million for him. They can't give that opinion out. Do you know what I mean? They've got to make it look fucking mental. And money does talk, guys. It does, right? So I think the article is a load of guff, to be honest with you. You know, the article is that what's really going on at Newcastle, it says, and it actually doesn't really tell you what's going on. It basically says, well, no one's made a bid for him yet, but they could do. That's all it says, really, if you think about it. You know, he's not for sale, but it would take this amount of money to make it happen. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people read this article and were very much like, oh, well, that's put a spanner in works then. But I wouldn't be too concerned by it. But what I want to do is I want to go over, you know, a section by section review with Dave, right? Headline analysis: Alexander Isak and Liverpool rumours. What's really going on at Newcastle? Very typical of Edwards, says Dave. He sets it up as a debunking piece, a sort of voice of reason in a sea of speculation. But let's dig into the details. 1. Opening. Hype machine takedown. Edward starts off mocking the rumour mill Contact has been made. Talks going on in private, etc. Tone, sarcastic and performative, designed to appeal to weary Newcastle fans bombarded by clickbait. But here's the flaw. His exaggerated list of false claims over-eggs the pudding a bit. Many of the original rumours were far more muted, mostly that Liverpool admire Isak, not that the move is imminent, which is exactly what I said, and Dave, fucking same thing, right? So he's made out these big exaggerations, and that's never really been said, but it hasn't been said. Tactic. By dismantling an extreme version of the rumour, he makes the real link sound absurd by association, even if more measured reports have existed. 2. Denial of contact. Sources at both ends. Edwards claims no contact, no talks, and a clear stance from Newcastle that it'd take, quote, well in excess of £150 million. Credibility, pretty solid here. It's likely true that Liverpool haven't bid or formally inquired, and I agree with Dave. However, the phrasing sources at both ends can be vague. Clubs often deny contact to protect negotiations or avoid media circus, especially early in the window. Plus, informal conversations between execs like Hughes and Michael Edwards, etc., wouldn't be traceable to the press. 3. Hypothetical scenarios, the contradiction. Here's the interesting bit, said Dave, and this is exactly what stood out to me. If Liverpool can sell Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz in the weeks ahead, maybe they will free up the funds to test Newcastle's resolve. Dave says it's speculative waffle. Edwards has just rubbished the idea that Isak could be sold, but then floats the what-if scenario. Flawed logic. If there's zero chance Newcastle will entertain bids and Isak is settled, why even include the idea that Liverpool could maybe fund a bid? It creates confusion. Are you closing the door or leaving it ajar? It undercuts his credibility by making room for the very rumour he's meant to be dismissing. 4. Isak's mindset. Edwards says Isak hasn't agitated to leave and seems settled. This is believable and useful and suggests no player side push at this time. But again, the line, this could change in 12 months, feels like a future excuse if it does happen. Clever covering of bases. Remember what I always say to you, always look out for the get out clause. Especially when in exclusive. 5. Newcastle's position. No need to sell. Would prefer to sell abroad if they had to. Would demand insane money, 150 to 200 million pounds. All valid. But also possibly exaggerated to scare suitors off. A common media tactic when a club is trying to protect a star. Should Liverpool fans believe him? Well, what's strong, says Dave. There's likely no bid or contact between the clubs right now. Newcastle don't want to sell and would demand huge money. Isak hasn't agitated for a move. Where it's flawed or contradictory, Edwards includes speculative hypotheticals if Diaz and Darwin are sold. That dilutes his own dismissal. He attacks a strawman version of the rumour rather than the more reasonable claims of Liverpool admiration. And the tone borders on defensive, aimed at Newcastle fans, which might bias the framing. So, the conclusion. This is Dave's conclusion. Luke Edwards is probably right about the current status. No active bid, no major movement, but he can't resist hedging with hypotheticals and veiled caveats. So should Liverpool fans believe him? Yes, for now, but with a sceptical eye. The key info, no contact, no intent to sell, is likely accurate, but the door isn't bolted shut. And even he seems to know it. And I think that is great analysis by Dave. I've taught him well. Seriously, this isn't a case of just throwing a few things every day. Me and Dave, I get him to learn and talk to him about the different fucking journalists, and I set things up for him to monitor and, to see when it's club messaging and things like that. And it helps me immensely get my message across to you guys. And, I went through that with my own opinion, and I think that was backed up by Dave's version as well. So I basically went through this article myself, saw that bit about, the contradictory bit, it's not going to happen. But then again, if Darwin Núñez and Luis, and I was like, what the fuck? Even Dave literally said, what the fuck, didn't they, at that point? And I threw the article at Dave and said, well, what do you think, Dave? And there you have it. So, Duncan, Dave know best, I think, on this. So, to be in all honesty with you, I would not pay any attention to Luke Edwards on this. Well, when I say any attention, what I mean is, some of the things he's saying, I don't think Liverpool have bid for him, which certainly there's no suggestion of any imminent transfer. But in my opinion, I think Liverpool are going to make a cheeky bid for him. I do. I think that might happen towards the end of the window. I don't know if it will, but something's very different. And for him to be publishing something there which assists Newcastle, it just feels like different reporting at the moment, guys. The last time the Isak stuff came around, I didn't touch it. What a load of shite. People like fucking Ben Jacobs running an exclusive and then next day denying it. How do you create your own exclusive and then create another exclusive that it's off? People were putting articles out saying Isak's Liverpool deal off. It was never on. And yes, if I was a Newcastle fan, I'd be sick of it. But unfortunately, that's what happens when you have good players, So I just feel that the reporting's different at the moment. The only thing that I think could fuck it a little bit, or what I mean by that is might prevent an approach, is Luis Diaz staying at Liverpool. And that is basically, said by the journalist here, that maybe those two sales would need to happen at Liverpool to fund a move, or certainly to help fund a move. And now you can see why I did a video the other day saying Luis Diaz's deal to Barca looks off. That could affect the transfer kitty. But some people, for some reason, didn't get what I was trying to say. And their answer was, well, we're still going to sell Elliott and we're going to sell him and him and him. So that's money. And they're listing all the amounts. And I'm like, all right, great. Yeah, all right. That could, but you have to remember, we've already spent money on Florian Wirtz and Frimpong and every other motherfucker, Kirkes. Liverpool need money in. So yeah, there's going to be those fringe players sold, but Núñez and Diaz, that money combined would have been a significant amount of money, I think, for the kitty. What do you think? Let me know. I don't think I've done a very good job of the video. I do apologise. But yeah, I just, at the end of every video, I think that I explain it right. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. But I was asked to give my opinion on the article, and I have given my opinion on the article. I think it's contradictory. It's over-exaggerated. The opening statement saying that, I haven't seen anywhere, I haven't even seen a Twitter twat suggest that Isak is on the verge of a move to Liverpool, imminently. So it's a strange article, and it certainly makes me suspicious about its intentions. But I give my opinion. And Dave gave his, and I think Dave's a genius because he picked out all the bits I did. See, we work well together. All right, I'll leave it with you. I'll speak to you later, guys. If you did find the video interesting, please thumbs up the video. If you're a Newcastle fan, I come in peace. I've got a great amount of respect for your club and your city. I'm just giving my opinion, and that's what football's about, right? Opinions. So, what else? Please drop me a comment. I would love to hear from you guys. And if you want to buy me a beer or a coffee, I'm going for a beer tomorrow. Sunday's going to be my day out. There is a love heart under the video, which is called the thanks button. You can do that if you wish. And I always give a shout out to everyone that does that on my morning briefings the next day. But I will conclude by saying that if Diaz had been sold to Barcelona, I think Liverpool would absolutely have made a cheeky move for Isak. And they may still do that. I still get a feeling they might do it, but I really do think the Diaz thing might have fucked things a little bit. But who knows? And I know some people will say it's too much money for a player with that injury record, but then there's people that say he would be used differently at Liverpool, etc., etc. So I don't know. There is I forget the Germany under-21 striker. I think you need to keep an eye on him. I did a video yesterday. I can't remember. It was titled, it had Bratislava in the title of the video. I think Liverpool officials in Bratislava. Watch that one. Liverpool have got an interest in the Germany under-21s at the moment. And I think the striker, is it Nick Voltemede or something? I don't know. Take a look at him. Fraction of the price. You could argue, not as experienced, etc. But I don't know. I'm just hearing that Liverpool might have an interest in him, so you might want to have a look at him. And that TK, whatever the fuck he is, that sounded a bit legit as well the other day. The only thing is, some of those strikers, Shesko, the likes, they're very, very expensive. And I think if you're going to be paying that kind of money, you might as well try and get him. That's what I think. But you can let me know what you think about the striker situation. But look out for that Germany under-21 striker. I'd never heard of him until a few days ago. All right. And Liverpool have been out there for some reason. Watch the video, the Bratislava. I read exactly the information that was given to me from the members' website. You don't need to be on the members' website because I tell you what it says. A few years ago, I used to have a strong interest in Dusan Vlahovic. I used to watch a lot of Serie A. He was very good when he was at Fiorentina, and Liverpool were looking at him. And then he went on, and I never watched Serie A now because I watch La Liga. But I believe he's available, But I don't know how, what sort of price would be on him, whether he'd be, whether that could happen, I don't know. But there's a lot of strikers out there. But I think a lot of them seem overpriced. And if you're going to go into that territory, you might as well take your chances with him. So, but the only thing is that Diaz thing might have thrown a spanner in the works, because despite Liverpool saying he's not for sale, I think Liverpool were counting on that money. All right, guys, I'll leave it with you. I hope I've given you something to think about. And like I say, I'm sorry if it's not a very good video. All right, I'll speak to you in a bit. Take it easy. All right.